The Mr. Boots' Ho Ho Ho, How High is Too High, and When It's Too High, Just High Enough art piece Smarty designed for the Norton Christmas project, before he was written out of history, was replaced by a John Baldessari. And now, not only was Smarty becoming ever more ghost-like, even to Marlowe, but the great John Baldessari was dead. If Smarty were here, they'd paint dots on their foreheads and drink to the legend. 39 dots, bubbles, kisses to J.B. David Sally, writing about John Baldessari, said leading his pantheon of great artists was not a painter, but French New Wave director Jean-Luc Godard, who reflected American gangster films back to American audiences in a young and cheeky and sexy way. Baldessari, with the aid of his students at Cal Arts, would create Godard-inspired tableaus to transform into art product. Art Smitten was also smitten with Godard, but back then it was a German multimedia artist that inspired him most, Zygmunt Polke. 3 cheers for capitalist realism. To Smitten, Polke's elegant, slapdash audacity was the pop that popped. At least that is what he told the camera crew that day in his studio. Smitten was being filmed for an art documentary, and for some reason he insisted Marlowe be there. Art could be imperious, but when he called, Marlowe came, happy to be asked. Smarty seemed to live everywhere and nowhere in those days. Marlowe had visited him in makeshift studios around the world, even the large studio in China in the Shanxi Art District, and was in Beijing, where he now remembered seeing fashion sketches pinned on the walls that would ultimately lead to the craze for the matching pop art honeymooner outfits that made the robots laugh. The flower design, an homage to Andy Warhol. He'd been in his Paris studio, his Los Angeles studio, his Tokyo studio, and on this day, a studio in a nondescript neighborhood in the Williamsburg part of Brooklyn. The studio occupied 3 floors. The busy team that seemed to expand to between 12 and 27 assistants at any given moment worked at deadline pace, while Smitten remained serene. No one spoke. If they had a question, they texted. Zip, zip, zip. Those flying bug devices he'd seen at Smarty's party that so unnerved him. Only now, zzz, 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 zzz. The tone much softer in the studio, restful, zen-like. Art seemed to walk on slippered feet. Art had been very secretive about the doings on the 3rd floor. Wouldn't even let Marlowe take a peek. Marlowe saw lights flashing and saw what looked like the ghost of Constantine Bracush, better known as Brancusi, in a coat patterned with headless scapegoats. Only much later would Marlowe come to understand Smitten was developing the revolutionary future technology known as Smitten Vision, TM. Marlowe was repeating the number to himself, 091. He stood in front of a labelless can the size of a large-sized chicken of the sea. The placard indicated artist Piero Manzoni, 1933 to 1963. Original title, Merda di Artista. Medium, tin can, printed paper, and excrement. The helpful scholar at Wikipedia told Marlowe, in May 1961, while he was living in Milan, Piero Manzoni produced 90 cans of artist shit. Each was numbered on the lid 001 to 090. A label on each can, printed in Italian, English, French, and German, identified the contents as artist shit. Contents 30 grams net, freshly preserved, produced and tinned in May 1961. It helped that Manzoni's father owned a tinning factory. His father often told him his art was shit. It is not known exactly how many cans of artist shit were sold within Manzoni's lifetime, but a receipt dated 23 August 1962 certifies that Manzoni sold one for 30 grams of 18-karat gold. Manzoni's decision to value his excrement on a par with the price of gold, made clear reference to the tradition of other artists as alchemists, already forged by Marcel Duchamp and Yves Klein, among others. Artist shit was made at a time when Manzoni was producing a variety of works involving the fetishization and commodification of his own body substances. These included making eggs with his thumbprints before eating them, and selling balloons filled with his own breath. Of these works, the cans of artist shit have become the most notorious, in part because of the lingering uncertainty about whether they do indeed contain Manzoni's feces. At times, when Manzoni's reputation has seen the market value of these works increase, such uncertainties have imbued them with an additional level of irony. 091, Marlowe asked Smarty. Without missing a beat, the smart one said, "Marlowe, sometimes a fake will do." Art's interest in Manzoni was the selling of balloons filled with the artist's breath. Smitten brand was a byword for cynical exploitation, media manipulation, crass showmanship, and many such memes Smarty spread about himself. The real Art Smitten was a shapeshifter, a serious artist. Selling air wasn't all a joke. It started in Paris, Smarty's party, then Bonga Bonga. Marlowe had gone through the looking glass and come out of the looking glass and gone back, and now felt something of a local on the other side of the mirror. It takes strength to look in the mirror when you are a friend of Art Smitten. It takes strength when the mirror bends, twists, exposes, deflects, changes color, and your face distorts as if Francis Bacon squeezed you out of his toothpaste. Card from Smarty. The future is bleak. Sales are good. In the future, I sell air. Gallery staff in button-down shirts emblazoned with the Art Smitten logo. The gallery staff don't say much, but give off a pleasing vibe, as if they are talking. Dominating the room atop a cylindrical base, a sculptural Mr. Boots that circles around. A beveled mirror technique, and in the cat's eyes you see compassion. And what else do you see? You, the assistant answers. You, in the eyes of the enlightened Mr. Boots. You make 3 wishes. For yourself, for your friends, for the earth, and you are sent your photo. You become part of the art. The assistant holds a device. You swipe a donation, $5, $10, $20 or more. What is a prayer but air? Over the top, too much shtick, but in no way this implied that Art Smitten's Mr. Boots would be anything but beautiful, meaningful, and as a piece of art, polished and rendered to the nth degree of perfection, a heartfelt offering and of deep meaning for anyone who partook in the experience. One may forgive a man for making a useful thing as long as he does not admire it. The only excuse for making a useless thing is that one admires it immensely. All art is quite useless. From the preface of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. A cynic is a man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing, said Oscar Wilde. Asked Art Smitten, what is the value of nothing? What is the value of prayer? This was on that day in Smarty's studio, the video shoot for the art documentary that would ultimately be titled The Price of Everything. In the movie, art collector Stefan Edlis talks investment art as he considers a Gerhard Richter. Red is good, brown forget it, you can't sell a brown picture, and no fish. Edlis's no fish comment makes sense only if you understand the reference to Art Smitten and his exhibit of holographic fish. They swam with some ferocity, about a foot in depth off the wall, and when Edlis got too close, a fish snapped. Edlis flinched. Stefan Edlis did like Mr. Boots with mirror glass eyes. This footage, when Art Smitten was written out of history, was replaced by Jeff Koons mirror balls which also typified the behemoth art enterprise. Art Smitten, love him or hate him, Smitten Inc. was a behemoth. But Marlowe saw not a Wizard of Oz, but Smarty, friends over the years who shared essential selves. Smarty guarded that self. Smarty was really on that day. Psychedelic jigsaw puzzle. He was repeating stuff he'd asked Marlowe earlier. What was he making? What next for Smitten was the question. Marlowe expected Smitten to say, if it's not a movie, what is it? Instead, Art said, picture canvases spread over a public space the size of a city block, shot from above by drones. A story told on the rugs, an interlocking poem. A single composite shot, which I will turn into a puzzle in a box. How do you think of that? They asked. He didn't, he said. He'd planned something entirely different. And then he said, in my career, I found that art is a series of accidents, unexpected pitfalls, unintentional mess-ups, and self-sabotage, with the corollary that the unconscious always has a finger in the pie. Whenever faced with screw-ups, it has been my policy to interpret as opportunity. And then he trotted out another of my stories and made it his own. What did Art Smitten believe in? The Madras shirt, guaranteed to bleed. You're a fledgling shirt designer back from Madras, where you blew a wad on Madras cloth. You dressed the block. Everyone loves Madras until the dye washes out. It was cheap, hadn't been cured, rookie mistake. Everyone wants a refund. What to do? Make the bug the feature. Genuine Indian Madras. Shoot the movie star, Scheherazade, rockin' the bleeded fade in the Raj's roles. Smarty was sly that way. Embrace mistakes. Turn deficits into assets. Make it bam. Art is a slippery bubble. Here in the filming, Smarty breaks into a Chaplin-esque dance, miming the balancing of a giant soap bubble. Slippery, slippery around the room and out the open window. Smarty reaches a hand out the window. We all see the invisible bubble float off. And then, like Busby Berkeley dancers on cat feet, his 39 assistants make 3 circles of 13. With bubble wands, they blow 39 bubbles for Zigmar Polke. Zect for all, champagne for everyone. And with that, cupcakes and Cristal champagne are served to cast and crew. What Marlowe didn't know at the time was that this carefully choreographed dance routine was being filmed and turned into a hologram on the 3rd floor to be played in museums around the world, wherever Smitten was exhibited. Smarty leveraged his art to maximum capacity. He never wasted a stroke.